You stir awake in this dim pre-dawn light filtering through a narrow window slit in your cramped brick home, the kind of place that makes your modern apartment feel like a sprawling palace. The air is thick with the earthy scent of baked mud, still cool from the night, but you can already sense the heat building outside, like a slow oven preheat that promises to turn everything sticky by midday. Your bed? Oh, it's nothing more than a simple mat woven from reeds, laid out on the hard-packed floor, none of that memory foam nonsense you're used to. You roll over, blinking groggily, and realize there's no alarm clock beeping at you, no coffee maker humming in the kitchen. Instead, the faint crow of a distant rooster and the soft rustle of your family members stirring nearby pull you into consciousness. Welcome to dawn in Mohenjo-Daro, one of the bustling hubs of the Indus Valley civilization around 2500 BCE, where life moves at the rhythm of the sun and the river, not your smartphone notifications. As you sit up, rubbing the sleep from your eyes, you can't help but notice how snug this place is. The walls are made of uniform baked bricks, stacked with precision that would impress even a modern engineer. Historians know this as a mainstream fact of the Indus Valley's advanced construction techniques, where bricks followed a standard ratio of 1:4 for length, width, and thickness, ensuring everything fit together like a giant Lego set built millennia before plastic was a thing. But right now, that precision feels a bit too confining. The room is small, maybe just enough space for you, your spouse, and a couple of kids to huddle together. No ensuite bathroom here, folks, just a corner with a basic pottery vessel for necessities, and if you're lucky, a nearby well shared with the neighbors. You stretch, your joints popping softly in the quiet, and think, well, at least there's no rush hour traffic to deal with, unless you count the oxen carts later. The first rays of sunlight creep over the horizon, painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges that spill into your courtyard through the open doorway. You pad across the cool brick floor, barefoot, because who needs shoes inside when the ground is this smooth? Outside, the city is starting to hum to life. Faint voices echo from adjacent homes, the clink of pottery as someone draws water, and the distant lowing of cattle being led to pasture. Mohenjo-Daro, with its estimated population of around 40,000 at its peak, feels alive even at this hour, but in a gentle, unhurried way that might just lull you back to sleep if you let it. You peer out into the narrow lane, lined with similar brick houses, all arranged in that famous grid pattern that screams organized urban planning. Streets run straight north-south and east-west, wide enough for carts but not so broad that you'd get lost in a crowd yet. It's like the city planners back then had a thing for symmetry, making everything predictable and, dare I say, a tad boring in the best possible way for bedtime stories. But oh, the absence of modern comforts hits you like a warm breeze off the Indus River. No electric lights to flick on, so you're fumbling in the half-light for your simple cotton tunic. Yes, the Indus folks were masters of cotton cultivation, spinning it into fabrics that were traded far and wide. A quirky tidbit being that some of their textiles might have even reached ancient Egypt, wrapped around mummies no less. You chuckle softly to yourself. Imagine your favorite t-shirt's great-great ancestor being used for eternal rest. No running water at the tap either. You'd have to haul it from the well in a clay pot balanced on your head or shoulder, feeling the cool droplets splash against your skin as you go. And privacy? Forget about it. Your home opens onto a shared courtyard where neighbors might already be milling about, chatting in low tones about the day's trade or the latest seal carvings. It's communal living at its finest, or most intrusive depending on your introvert level. As the sun climbs higher, warming the bricks under your feet, you step out fully into the morning air. The scent of damp earth mixes with something faintly smoky, perhaps from a neighbor's early cooking fire, where they're heating flatbreads made from barley or wheat, staples of the Indus diet. You feel a pang of hunger, but breakfast is still a ways off. Right now it's about shaking off the night and preparing for the day. Historians still argue whether this society was truly egalitarian or hid subtle hierarchies behind those uniform brick facades. Some point to larger homes as evidence of wealthier classes, while others see the shared wells and drains as proof of a more equal setup, without palaces or temples dominating the skyline. It's one of those debates that could keep scholars up at night, but here in this narrative, it's just a gentle puzzle to ponder as you yawn. You make your way to the well in the courtyard, the rope creaking softly as you lower the bucket into the dark depths. The water comes up clear and cool, a testament to the civilization's reliance on the Indus River and clever engineering to avoid contamination. Splashing some on your face, you feel the refreshing chill chase away the last bits of drowsiness, though you miss your hot shower with all its steamy luxury. A light joke for you. If the Indus people had invented caffeine, maybe their cities wouldn't have declined. Talk about a wake-up call they missed. The sounds around you build gradually, the patter of feet on the street, a child's laughter from next door, the flap of birds taking flight from rooftops. Flat roofs, by the way, often used as extra living space or for drying grains, adding another layer to this vertical urban life. Grappling with these absences, you can't help a gentle sarcastic aside. Sure, no Wi-Fi or air conditioning, but hey, at least the drainage system is top-notch better than some modern cities, I'd bet. Indeed, as you rinse your hands, you notice how wastewater trickles away into covered drains along the lane, a mainstream innovation that kept diseases at bay in this hot climate. But the heat is already rising, the sun turning the air hazy, and you wonder how you'll last the day without your iced latte. Another quirky fact pops into mind. Archaeologists found tiny terracotta toys, like little carts and animals, suggesting kids played in these streets, perhaps right where you're standing now. Imagine tripping over a toy ox while heading out eternal parenting struggles. Am I right? As dawn fully breaks, the city awakens around you in a symphony of subtle sensory details. The golden light bathes the brick walls, highlighting their textured surfaces, while the aroma of sesame oil used for everything from cooking to lamps wafts from a nearby home. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of history in this moment. Yet it's all so ordinary, so human. No grand battles or dramatic upheavals here, just the quiet start to another day in a civilization that thrived on order and ingenuity. But you're already feeling the strain of this simplicity. Your back aches from the mat, your skin prickles with the impending heat, and you long for just one modern convenience. A soft joke to ease you. If time travel existed, you'd pack a pillow and some sunscreen. Ancient SPF was probably just mud, and that's no way to start your morning glow-up. You linger in the courtyard a bit longer, watching the shadows shorten as the sun asserts itself. The river's distant murmur reaches your ears, a constant backdrop to life here, reminding you of the floods that could reshape everything in a season. Yet for now, it's peaceful, almost meditative. Historians debate the exact reasons for the civilization's eventual decline: climate change, shifting rivers, or overpopulation. But in this dawn light, those worries feel far away. You're just you, in this cramped home, grappling with a world without buttons to push or screens to scroll. It's oddly soothing, this lack of rush, like the city itself is whispering, "Take it slow, friend." And as the warmth spreads, you feel your eyelids heavy again, the narrative pulling you gently toward the day's unfolding. But the day waits for no one, even in ancient times. You gather your thoughts, smoothing your tunic, and prepare to step into the streets. The absence of comforts nags at you. No soft blankets, no instant hot water, no privacy curtains. But there's a certain charm in the simplicity, a rhythm that syncs with the rising sun. Another light-hearted quip: living here, you'd never oversleep. The sun's your boss, and it's always on time, unlike your old alarm that you snoozed a dozen times. Sensory overload builds softly, the feel of rough brick underfoot, the taste of fresh well water on your lips, the sight of neighbors emerging like ghosts from their doorways. Mohenjo-Daro at dawn is a masterpiece of quiet activity, and you're right in the middle, wondering if you'll make it through without craving a nap already. With the sun now fully above the horizon, casting a golden glow over the courtyard, you decide it's time to tackle the morning hygiene rituals that everyone in Mohenjo-Daro seems to take for granted. You shuffle toward the small bathroom area attached to your home. Yes, even in this ancient city, most houses boast their own private washrooms, a mainstream historical fact that showcases the Indus Valley's obsession with cleanliness, where nearly every dwelling had access to some form of toilet connected to the city's elaborate drainage system. It's like they invented urban plumbing before anyone else thought it was necessary. All those baked brick channels running underground to whisk away waste and keep the streets spotless. But as you approach, the baffling sophistication hits you. No flush handle, no porcelain throne, just a simple brick platform with a hole leading to a cesspit or drain below, and you're expected to squat over it with the grace of someone who's done this their whole life. You pause, staring at this setup, feeling a mix of awe and awkwardness. The air in here is cooler, shaded from the rising heat, with a faint musty scent rising from the drain nothing too offensive, thanks to the clever design that slopes everything downward to prevent backups. You reach for a pottery jug of water you've fetched from the well, pouring it carefully to rinse things off, the cool liquid splashing against the bricks with a soft, rhythmic patter that echoes in the confined space. No toilet paper in sight, of course. Instead, you'd use a smooth stone or perhaps a leaf, wiped clean afterward talk about eco-friendly before it was trendy. A gentle, sarcastic aside creeps in. If only they had those heated bidets from your time. Squatting here feels like a yoga class you didn't sign up for, and you're already missing the plush rolls of tissue that unspool like magic. As you navigate this, attempting to freshen up, the lack of familiar soaps becomes glaringly obvious. No scented body wash or shampoo bottles lining a shelf. The Indus folks relied on natural alternatives like a paste made from sesame seeds or fuller's earth. That quirky tidbit being that some archaeologists have found evidence of soap-like substances from plant ashes mixed with oils, possibly even used for washing hair to keep those long locks manageable in the humid climate. You scoop a bit of this makeshift cleanser from a small clay pot, rubbing it between your hands to create a lather that's more gritty than bubbly, the earthy smell filling your nostrils like a faint herbal tea gone wrong. It does the job, sort of, leaving your skin feeling scrubbed but not exactly pampered. None of that moisturizing glow you're used to after a modern shower. You splash water over your face and arms, the droplets tracing cool paths down your skin, evaporating quickly in the warming air, and you can't help but think how this routine must have kept diseases at bay in a city this crowded. Privacy, though? That's another story altogether. The bathroom isn't fully enclosed like your locked door back home. It's more of an alcove off the main room, with perhaps a simple reed screen for modesty, but sounds carry easily through the thin walls. You can hear your family moving about in the adjacent space, murmuring softly as they prepare for their own day. And outside, neighbors' voices drift in from the shared courtyard. It's communal in a way that feels intrusive, like everyone's business is just a whisper away, no slamming doors or "do not disturb" signs here. Historians still argue whether this setup reflected a truly open society or just practical engineering constraints, with some suggesting the shared drains fostered community bonds, while others point to larger homes with more private facilities as hints of social stratification bubbling under the surface. Either way, as you finish up, rinsing with another jug of water, the trickle echoing down the drain, you feel exposed, vulnerable, in this baffling blend of advanced tech and basic exposure. You step back into the main area, shaking off the water from your hands, the bricks underfoot now slightly slick from your splashes. The sun's light streams in stronger now, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air, and you catch a whiff of something floral, perhaps from a neighbor using crushed flowers in their wash, adding a touch of luxury to the routine. Attempting to comb your hair with a simple bone or wooden comb, you tug at tangles formed overnight on that reed mat, wincing softly. No mirrors either. You'd have to rely on a polished copper plate or just the reflection in a water basin, distorting your image like a funhouse trick. A light joke for the moment. Looking at your wavy reflection, you might think you've aged 1,000 years overnight fitting, since you're literally in the Bronze Age, where vanity takes a back seat to survival. The drainage systems continue to amaze and confuse you as you glance down at the covered channel running along the edge of your home. These aren't just random ditches. They're precisely laid with bricks, sloped to carry wastewater straight to larger sewers under the streets, eventually dumping into the river or soak pits outside the city. It's engineering genius, preventing floods and keeping the place hygienic in ways that rivaled or surpassed later civilizations like Rome. But baffling. Oh yes, imagine if one gets clogged. You'd be the one poking at it with a stick, no plumber on speed dial. You chuckle inwardly. In your time, a blocked drain means a quick call and a hefty bill. Here it's DIY or deal with the overflow, which sounds like a recipe for a very unrelaxing morning. Freshening up complete, you feel a bit more awake, though the absence of hot water leaves you yearning for steam and suds. The air warms further, carrying the sounds of the city ramping up, carts rumbling in the distance, voices calling greetings. Without privacy, every splash and sigh feels shared, like the whole neighborhood is in on your routine. Another quirky detail, some homes even had upstairs bathrooms, with drains piercing through floors. a vertical plumbing feat that must have required serious planning to avoid leaks onto the dinner table below. You imagine the embarrassment of a drip during mealtime and suppress a grin. As you smooth your tunic once more, ready to move on, the sophisticated systems linger in your mind. They're baffling because they're so ahead of their time. No wonder Mohenjo-Daro stayed healthy despite the heat and crowds. But without soaps as you know them, your skin feels taut, slightly raw from the natural scrub. A soft joke. If they had invented bubble bath, maybe the great bath later in the day would be a foam party instead of a solemn dip. Privacy remains elusive. You hear a child giggling outside, perhaps peeking through the screen, reminding you that boundaries here are as fluid as the river itself. The morning light brightens, pulling you toward the next part of the day, but these rituals have already worn you down a touch squatting, scrubbing, splashing in semi-public view. It's immersive, this "you are there" detail, with the cool water's memory on your skin and the drain's faint gurgle fading behind you. Historians debate if this hygiene focus stemmed from religious purity or pure practicality, a question that drifts lazily in your thoughts like the evaporating droplets. No outrage here, just gentle wonder at how they managed so well with so little, making you appreciate your own era's luxuries even as the ancient rhythm soothes you. You step fully into the courtyard now, the sun warming your freshly washed face, and the baffling efficiency of it all settles in. No lingering odors, no mess thanks to those drains, life flows on cleanly. But the lack of privacy nags, a constant whisper that you're never truly alone. Another light quip. In Mohenjo-Daro, your business is literally everybody's, flushed away together in communal harmony. The sensory details wrap around you, the feel of clean but soapless skin, the taste of fresh water still on your lips, the sight of steam rising faintly from wet bricks. It's oddly calming, this routine, pulling you deeper into the day's gentle unfolding, even as you grapple with its peculiarities. With your morning ablutions behind you, the warmth of the sun now fully embracing the courtyard, you turn your attention to breaking your fast in this ancient world, where foraging for sustenance feels less like a trendy farm-to-table experience and more like a daily puzzle you'd rather skip. You rummage through the simple storage jars in your home's corner pantry clay pots sealed with lids to keep out pests, holding the basics that fueled this civilization for centuries. The air carries a faint, nutty aroma from the grains inside, mingling with the earthy scent of the bricks, as you scoop out a handful of barley, one of the mainstream historical staples of the Indus Valley diet, alongside wheat, which archaeologists have found in abundance at sites like Mohenjo-Daro, ground into flour for flatbreads or boiled into porridges that sustained entire populations through the hot seasons. You settle on a low stool woven from reeds, the kind that creaks softly under your weight, and begin preparing this modest meal. No fancy kitchen gadgets here, no blenders or toasters, just a stone quern for grinding the barley into a coarse flour, your arms aching already from the rhythmic back and forth motion that turns the grains into something edible. It's labor intensive, this foraging in your own home. But remember that well water from earlier? You mix a bit of it with the flour to form a dough, kneading it on a flat clay surface dusted with more flour to prevent sticking. The texture is gritty under your fingers, not the smooth elasticity of your modern bread dough. And as you pat it into a thin disc, you ponder why your stomach might protest these ancient staples. Perhaps it's the lack of yeast for rising, making everything dense and heavy, or maybe just the unfamiliar fiber content that could lead to a bit of bloating later in the day. Dates come next, those sweet, chewy fruits plucked from storage. Yes, the Indus people cultivated or traded for dates, a quirky tidbit being that some carbonized remains found in excavations suggest they enjoyed melons and bananas too, possibly even early forms of mangoes, adding a touch of natural sweetness to an otherwise bland palate. You bite into one, the sticky flesh yielding with a soft pop, juice dribbling down your chin in the morning light that filters through the doorway. It's nature's candy, sure, but without your usual sugar rush from cereal or pastries, it feels like a tease sweet enough to perk you up, yet not quite hitting that comfort food spot. A gentle sarcastic aside, if only they had invented avocado toast. Mashing dates on barley flatbread might be the closest thing, but it'd never go viral on ancient Instagram seals. As you heat your flatbread over a small fire in the courtyard hearth fueled by dried dung or wood scraps, the smoke curling lazily upward in thin wisps that sting your eyes just a touch, You reflect on the daily sustenance that kept these folks going. Breakfast isn't a rushed affair with drive-through options. It's deliberate, tied to the seasons and the river's bounty. You'd forage not just from jars, but perhaps from a small home garden if your family had one, picking fresh greens or lentils to boil alongside. The pot bubbles softly now, a simple gruel of barley and water simmering, its steam carrying a wholesome, if monotonous scent that fills the air like a warm blanket. You stir it with a wooden spoon, watching bubbles rise and pop, and can't help but miss the variety. No eggs Benedict or smoothies here, just these staples that historians know form the core of a largely vegetarian diet, supplemented by fish from the Indus, and occasional meat from domesticated animals like cattle or sheep. Your stomach rumbles in anticipation, but also in mild protest, unused to this fiber-heavy start. Pondering deeper, you wonder about the nutritional balance. Barley provides energy. Dates offer quick sugars, but without modern vitamins or supplements, how did they avoid deficiencies? It's one of those open scholarly debates. Historians still argue whether the Indus diet was predominantly plant-based due to religious reasons, like early hints of ahimsa, non-violence, that would later influence Jainism and Hinduism, or simply pragmatic, driven by agricultural abundance and trade networks that brought in pulses like chickpeas and black gram without needing widespread hunting. You take your first bite of the warm flatbread, tearing it with your hands, the crust slightly charred, crumbly on the outside but soft within, paired with a date for contrast. The flavors are earthy, subtly sweet, grounding you in the moment as the sun climbs higher, warming your back through your tunic. Sensory details envelop you, the chew of the barley, resistant at first, then yielding, the sticky residue of date on your fingers, the faint crackle of the dying fire. It's sustaining, yes, but your modern palate craves spice or salt. Though they had access to rock salt via trade, it's not like you'd sprinkle it liberally without measuring spoons. A light joke slips in. Eating this every day, you'd probably dream of pizza delivery. Too bad the Indus script remains undeciphered. Or maybe it'd reveal ancient takeout menus hidden in those seals. Foraging extends beyond your home, too. If supplies run low, you'd head to the communal granaries later. But for now, it's this intimate ritual. You sip water from a clay cup to wash it down, the coolness soothing your throat, and ponder the staples' role in daily life. Barley wasn't just food, it was currency and barter, traded for tools or cloth, tying sustenance to the economy in a seamless loop. Your stomach settles somewhat, but the heaviness lingers, a reminder that adaptation takes time. Another quirky fact. Excavations uncovered terracotta models of plows and sickles, suggesting advanced farming techniques that made these meals possible, perhaps even crop rotation to keep the soil fertile along the floodplains. As you finish your meal, wiping your hands on your tunic, no napkins, just practicality. The morning energy builds around you. Neighbors' cooking fires send similar smoky signals into the air, creating a communal haze that's oddly comforting, like a neighborhood barbecue without the burgers. Pondering why your body protests, it could be the gluten in the barley, denser than processed wheat, or simply the shift from processed foods to whole grains that demand more from your digestion. A soft joke. If time travelers packed antacids, they'd be the real MVPs here. Your tummy's algorithm isn't optimized for ancient inputs yet. The meal wraps up slowly, leaving you sated but not stuffed, ready for the streets ahead. These staples, barley and dates, anchor you to the earth's rhythms, their simplicity a gentle nudge toward mindfulness. Historians debate if feasts broke the monotony, perhaps during festivals with honey-sweetened treats, but evidence is sparse, like fragments in the sand. You rise, brushing crumbs away, the taste lingering on your tongue as the city's hum calls you outward. It's all so unhurried, this sustenance, weaving into the day's fabric like code in a well-structured system, efficient, reliable, if a bit bland for your tastes. But oh, the pondering continues as you linger a moment longer, staring at the empty pot. Why the protest? Maybe it's psychological, missing the ritual of your coffee and toast, or physiological, adjusting to no caffeine kick. Another light quip. In Mohenjo-Daro, breakfast is fuel, not fun. No brunch specials, just barley basics to keep you from debugging hunger errors all day. The sensory wrap-up. Warmth in your belly, sweetness on your lips, smoke in your nostrils, It's nourishing in its quiet way, pulling you gently forward, even as your stomach grumbles a soft complaint. Satisfied from your simple breakfast, though your stomach still feels a bit unsettled from those dense barley flatbreads, you finally venture out of the courtyard, stepping into the bustling avenues of Mohenjo-Daro that stretch out like a well-organized grid, waiting to test your navigation skills. The sun hangs higher now, bathing the wide streets in a warm, golden haze that makes the baked brick surfaces shimmer faintly, and immediately you're hit by the hum of activity voices chattering in an unfamiliar tongue, the creak of wooden carts rolling over the smooth pavement, and the occasional low moo from an ox being prodded along. These streets are no chaotic maze. They're laid out in a precise north-south and east-west pattern, a mainstream historical fact of the Indus Valley's urban planning genius, where main avenues could span up to 10 meters wide enough for 2 carts to pass comfortably without a fender bender in this pre-wheelie era. You dodge to the side as a laden cart trundles by, piled high with bundles of cotton cloth or stacks of pottery. The wheels solid wood, no spokes yet, thumping softly against the bricks that fit together so seamlessly, it's like the whole city was coated with perfect alignment in mind. The crowds press in gently, a mix of men in simple tunics, women with intricate bead necklaces glinting in the light, and children darting underfoot like little algorithms zipping through a network. It feels oddly familiar, this grid layout reminiscent of modern cities like New York or Chandigarh, yet utterly alien without traffic lights, street signs, or even a decipherable script to tell you which way is the market. You weave through, your bare feet padding on the warm bricks smooth from years of use, but watch out for those occasional loose ones that could stub your toe like a hidden bug in the system. The sensory overload builds slowly in that soothing way that pulls you deeper into the scene, the earthy scent of sun-baked mud mixing with hints of sesame oil from a passerby's skin, the feel of a light breeze off the distant river carrying faint moisture to cut the dryness, and the sounds. Oh, the sounds of bartering voices rising and falling like a gentle wave, not aggressive but persistent, as if everyone's negotiating life's little trades. Dodging another crowd cluster, you nearly bump into a trader balancing a basket of dates on his head, his steady gait a reminder that head carrying was the original hands-free mode. A gentle, sarcastic aside, if they had invented roller skates, these streets would be a dream. As it is, you're power walking like it's leg day at the ancient gym, sans the protein shakes. Bustling doesn't mean chaotic here, far from it. The avenues are flanked by 2-story brick homes, their blank outer walls facing the street for privacy, doors opening inward to courtyards like the one you just left, creating a sense of ordered mystery. You glance down a narrower alley branching off, maybe 3 meters wide, where smaller crowds mill about, perhaps gossiping over shared wells that dot the intersections, providing fresh water with a simple rope and bucket system. It's also efficient, this metropolis of around 40,000 souls at its peak, where drains run along the street edges, covered with bricks to keep things tidy and prevent that pesky wastewater from pooling underfoot. Imagine slipping on a puddle in your sandals, or lack thereof, and you chuckle softly. In Mohenjo-Daro, the real street smarts come from avoiding the drains, not the traffic. As you navigate further, the alien familiarity sinks in deeper. No grand boulevards lined with shops like in your time. Instead, commerce spills into the streets, with artisans setting up temporary stalls or working from home workshops, visible through open doorways. A potter spinning clay on a wheel, the whir soft and hypnotic, or a bead maker threading tiny carnelian stones that catch the light like scattered jewels. A quirky tidbit tickles your mind. Archaeologists have unearthed standardized weights and measures from these sites, like cubical stones calibrated to a binary system, powers of 2, almost like early computing bits, ensuring fair trade in the crowds, so no one gets shortchanged on their barley or bronze. You pause to watch an exchange, hands gesturing animatedly over a pile of seals carved with mysterious animals and script, and ponder how you'd haggle without words you understand. Point and hope, maybe, like charades with high stakes. The crowds thicken near what seems like a central avenue, people flowing in from side streets like data packets in a busy network, dodging not just carts but also stray dogs or goats ambling along, their bells tinkling faintly. You feel the press of bodies, not overwhelming but constant. The warmth of proximity in this hot climate making sweat bead on your brow already. Remember that morning wash? It's holding up, but the dust kicked up by feet clings to your skin like a fine layer of code, comments you can't delete. Historians still argue whether this grid plan setup reflected a truly egalitarian society, with no obvious palaces or temples dominating the skyline suggesting shared power, or if subtle hierarchies lurked in the larger homes and specialized crafts, perhaps controlled by a priestly or merchant elite whose influence remains undecoded like their writing. You sidestep a group of children playing with tiny terracotta toys, miniature carts, and animals, rolling them across the bricks with giggles that echo off the walls, and smile at the timeless joy, though it feels alien without playgrounds or parks. The streets are the playground, the marketplace, the everything. A light joke for you. Navigating here without GPS, you'd be lost in 5 minutes. Good thing the grid is foolproof, or you'd end up bartering your tunic for directions back home. The bustling energy is immersive, pulling you along like a current, yet it's gentle, no shoving or shouting, just a rhythmic flow that could almost lull you if not for the need to stay alert. Deeper into the avenues, the metropolis reveals more layers. Covered drains gurgling softly beneath grates, preventing floods in monsoon season, and public wells where people gather, drawing water with communal buckets that splash refreshingly. You lean against a wall for a moment, the brick cool in the shade, watching the crowds part around a slow-moving ox cart loaded with grains from the fields outside the city. Farming was key, after all, sustaining this urban hub. It feels familiar in its structure, like a scaled-down version of today's cities, yet alien in its quiet order. No billboards or neon, just the subtle patterns of bricks and the occasional fired clay figurine peeking from a window ledge. Dodging yet another cart, you feel the strain. Your feet ache from the hard surfaces, your senses buzz from the constant motion, and you long for a quiet bench that doesn't exist here. Another soft quip. If they had street cafes, you'd order an iced tea and people watch. Instead, you're the one being watched, a stranger in this seamless system. The alien vibe intensifies with the lack of warfare signs, no fortifications beyond basic walls, suggesting peace. But was it? The debate lingers as you press on. The streets widen again, leading toward what might be the market area, the crowds denser but still navigable, like threads in a well-woven fabric. Sensory details wrap around, the tap-tap of feet, the murmur of voices like a distant river, the warmth of sun on brick. It's oddly soothing, this bustling yet orderly world, making you wonder if you'd adapt or flee back to your era's chaos. A final joke. In this grid, getting lost means you're not paying attention, like forgetting to indent your code, and suddenly nothing runs right. You keep moving, the avenues pulling you forward in their familiar alien embrace, the day's heat building as the metropolis hums on. Having threaded your way through those bustling streets, dodging carts and crowds with your feet now dusty from the warm bricks, you arrive at the edge of the city where the granaries loom like silent guardians of abundance, their massive forms casting long shadows in the midday sun that's already turning the air into a hazy shimmer. You wipe a bead of sweat from your brow, feeling the relentless heat press down like a heavy blanket, and step onto the raised platform where the work awaits. Storing grains harvested from the fertile floodplains. A task that sounds straightforward but quickly reveals itself as backbreaking labor in this ancient setup. The granary here in Mohenjo-Daro is one of the largest structures around, a mainstream historical fact being that it was built on a high brick platform to protect against floods, measuring impressively wide and designed with rows of storage bins that could hold enough surplus to feed the city through lean times, showcasing the civilization's advanced agricultural planning. You join a line of workers, your tunic already sticking to your skin as you heft a heavy sack of barley. Remember that breakfast staple that's still sitting solidly in your stomach? Onto your shoulder, the coarse fibers digging in like tiny reminders that ergonomics weren't a thing yet. The sun beats down relentlessly, turning every movement into a sweaty endeavor, your muscles protesting with each step up the ramp to the storage areas. It's all manual, no conveyor belts or forklifts. Just you and your fellow laborers, grunting softly as you pour the grains into deep, brick-lined pits, the golden kernels cascading with a hushed rustle that fills the air like a whispered secret. Sensory details wrap around you gently, the dry, nutty scent of fresh wheat mingling with the earthy, baked brick aroma, the feel of sweat trickling down your back in slow rivulets, and the distant murmur of the river below, a constant soothing backdrop to the toil. Admiring the engineering marvels around you offers a brief respite as you pause to catch your breath, leaning against a sturdy wall that's part of this elevated foundation raised high to keep out moisture and pests, with ventilation ducts cleverly built in to prevent spoilage, almost like the Indus folks had prototyped climate control before anyone else. You marvel at the precision, bricks laid in perfect alignment, some weighing as much as you, stacked without mortar yet holding firm for millennia. A gentle sarcastic aside slips in. If they had invented air conditioning, this granary gig might be bearable. As it is, you're sweating like a server overheating in a data center with no fans and no IT guy to call for a reboot. The labor continues under that sun, you trudging back and forth with more sacks, your arms burning from the repetition, but there's a rhythmic quality to it that's almost meditative. The pour, the shuffle, the soft thump of feet on the platform. Quirky tidbit time. Archaeologists found that some of these granaries had wooden superstructures, possibly for drying grains atop, and one at Harappa even featured circular brick platforms that might have been for threshing, like early prototypes of crop circles, but way more practical and less alien involved, unless you count the heat making you hallucinate. You chuckle softly to yourself, wiping sweat from your eyes, as you dump another load, the grain settling with a satisfying sigh that echoes in the vast space. Sweating profusely now, you can't help but admire how these structures tie into the bigger picture. The granaries weren't just storage. They were economic hubs, where surplus was managed, perhaps taxed or distributed, fueling trade that reached as far as Mesopotamia. The relentless sun glares off the bricks, making everything blur a touch in the heat haze, and you long for shade that isn't forthcoming. Workers around you move with practiced ease, their skin glistening but unbothered, chatting in low tones about the harvest yields or the latest seal designs. Historians still argue whether these massive buildings were truly granaries or multi-purpose warehouses. Some point to the lack of actual grain residues as evidence they might have stored cotton or tools instead, while others insist the ventilation and platforms scream food storage, a debate that lingers like the dust in the air here. You take a moment to straighten up, your back aching from the bending and lifting, and gaze out over the engineering wonders. The platform's height offering a view of the city below, streets grid-like and orderly, drains snaking efficiently, all built with standardized bricks that fit like puzzle pieces in a grand design. It's impressive, this blend of form and function, but the sweat pouring down your face reminds you it's no spectator sport. You're in it, laboring away. A light joke for relief. Storing grains all day, you'd think it'd be a piece of cake, but it's more like kneading endless dough under a broiler. At least back home, your fridge does the storing for you. No assembly required. The work presses on, you joining in, sealing a bin with a clay lid, the material cool and malleable under your fingers despite the heat, preventing insects from sneaking in like uninvited code bugs. Admiring further, you note the ramps for easy access, wide enough for carts, and the way the whole thing integrates with the city's flood defenses. True engineering marvels that kept famine at bay in a variable climate. Your breaths come heavier now, the sun's rays like persistent queries hammering your system, but the admiration grows. These folks built sustainably, without machinery, a testament to human ingenuity that makes your modern gadgets feel a bit lazy. Another round of hauling, sweat soaking through your tunic completely, and you ponder the scale enough storage for thousands, centralized like a database hub for the civilization's food security. A soft quip. If time machines existed, you'd volunteer for granary duty only if it came with SPF and a water break app. Otherwise, it's a hard pass on this sunny sweat fest. Sensory immersion deepens. The gritty feel of grains slipping through your hands, the salty taste of sweat on your lips, the vast shadows shifting as clouds occasionally drift by, offering fleeting mercy. Laboring on, you feel the weight of history in each sack. These granaries symbols of prosperity, yet demanding such effort under the sun that never quits. Admiring the vents again slits in the walls allowing airflow, preventing mold like a natural algorithm for preservation, you wipe your forehead with your sleeve, the fabric damp and clinging. The quirky debate echoes in your mind, adding layers to the marvels, as workers around you wrap up a section, their movements synchronized like well-oiled code. As the sun climbs toward its peak, the heat intensifies, your body glistening and tired, but the engineering holds your gaze. The platforms, the bins, all marvels of Bronze Age brilliance. Another joke to lighten. Sweating here, you'd fit right in with a gym membership, except the only gains are in grain storage, not muscles, though your arms beg to differ. The relentless sun softens in your thoughts, the labor a gentle pulse pulling you through, admiration blooming amidst the toil. You keep at it, storing one more load, the granary's vastness enveloping you in their quiet strength, a soothing end to this segment of the day, even as sweat drips steadily. Leaving the granaries behind, your arms still tingling from the heavy lifting and your skin slick with sweat under that relentless sun, you make your way toward the heart of Mohenjo-Daro, where the vibrant bazaars pulse with life, drawing you into a midday swirl of colors, sounds, and scents that could overwhelm even the most seasoned shopper from your era. The avenues widen here into open areas dotted with makeshift stalls. Nothing like enclosed malls, just clusters of traders spreading their wares on reed mats or low brick platforms, shaded sporadically by awnings of woven cloth that flap gently in the hot breeze. You haggle for a piece of cotton cloth, that soft, finely spun fabric the Indus folks were famous for producing, a mainstream historical fact being that they exported vast quantities of cotton textiles to distant lands like Mesopotamia, where it was prized for its quality and even mentioned in ancient Sumerian texts as coming from the land of Meluha. You approach a stall piled high with bolts of undyed cotton, the material light and breathable, perfect for wrapping around yourself in this heat. But the bartering chaos kicks in immediately. The trader, a weathered man with a necklace of carnelian beads glinting around his neck, gestures animatedly at the cloth while holding up a small stone weight, part of the standardized system that ensured fair deals across the civilization. No coins or cash here. It's all barter, you offering perhaps a handful of barley from your pouch, or a simple pottery vessel in exchange, your hands waving back and forth in a dance of negotiation that feels like trying to debug a buggy code without comments frustrating yet oddly rhythmic. The script you can't read adds to the overwhelm. Everywhere, small steatite seals stamped with indecipherable symbols and animal motifs lie scattered among the goods, used to mark ownership or authenticity in trades, their mysterious writing staring back at you like an unsolved puzzle that historians have puzzled over for centuries. Sensory details envelop you softly, the earthy tang of spices traded from afar, mixing with the faint floral scent of dyed cloths, the feel of rough cotton under your fingertips as you inspect a piece, and the cacophony of voices rising and falling in a gentle hum of haggling, not aggressive but persistent, like a marketplace algorithm processing endless transactions. Overwhelmed by the chaos, you nearly trip over a basket of terracotta figurines, tiny models of bulls and birds, perhaps toys or ritual items, while dodging a woman balancing a stack of bronze tools on her head, her steady steps a testament to the daily grind. A gentle, sarcastic aside, if they had invented shopping carts, this bazaar might not feel like a level in an ancient video game where you're under-leveled and over-encumbered. As it is, you're juggling your offers like variables in a poorly optimized loop. The vibrant energy of the bazaars pulls you deeper, stalls bursting with beads of lapis lazuli imported from Afghanistan, shells from the Arabian seashore, and even bits of ivory or gold that hint at far-flung networks stretching to the Persian Gulf. You haggle on, pointing at the cotton cloth and mimicking wrapping it around your shoulders, the trader nodding with a knowing smile as he counters by holding up two fingers, demanding more in return, perhaps some of those dates lingering in your thoughts from breakfast. It's mayhem in the mildest sense, crowds milling about without pushing, children weaving through legs with giggles, and the occasional ox cart rumbling past loaded with more goods to unload. Quirky tidbit alert. Some of these seals featured unicorns, not the mythical kind you know, but likely a side view of a bull with one horn showing, used as trademarks in trade, almost like early branding logos that could have inspired modern corporate icons if only the script were cracked. Your head spins a bit from the overwhelm, the undeciphered script on those seals mocking you every time you glance at one-lines and pictographs that might detail weights, origins, or even merchant names, but to you, they're just elegant scribbles adding to the bartering fog. You finally seal the deal, trading a small clay pot for a length of cotton, folding it under your arm with a sense of small victory, though the chaos around you doesn't let up. Another trader calls out, waving shiny copper bangles that clink softly, tempting you into another round. Historians still argue whether this trade-heavy society was truly egalitarian, with standardized weights suggesting fair play for all, or if hidden hierarchies existed among merchants who controlled exotic imports, perhaps forming an elite class that the lack of palaces disguises in the archaeological record. Haggling fatigue sets in as the sun beats down, making the air thick and your tunic clingier. But the bazaar's vibrancy keeps you engaged, the colors of dyed cloths in reds and blues from natural pigments, the glint of semi-precious stones like agate and jasper crafted into beads that dangle from stalls like jewels in a treasure hunt. You pause to watch an exchange nearby, a farmer bartering grains for tools, the weights clinking on a balance scale with precision that rivals modern scales, ensuring no one gets shorted, a light joke to ease the mayhem. Bartering here is like negotiating salary without HR pure chaos, but at least no taxes on your cotton haul unless the priests collect in mysterious ways. The chaos swirls on, you overwhelmed yet immersed, stepping aside as a group of women haggle over seashells turned into ornaments, their laughter light and infectious. The script's mystery nags at you. Imagine if decoding it revealed shopping lists or trade receipts, mundane magic lost to time. Another soft quip. If you had a translator app, you'd dominate these bazaars. Instead, you're gesturing like a mime in a marketplace drama, hoping for a happy ending with your cloth intact. Vibrant stalls continue to beckon, from pottery glazed in simple patterns to wooden toys carved with care, the bartering a constant undercurrent like data flowing in a network. You feel the pull of the crowd, bodies brushing past in the heat, scents of sesame oil and spices wafting stronger now, making your stomach twinge with hunger despite the earlier meal. Overwhelmed by it all, the unread script sealing secrets, the endless haggling that tests your patience like an infinite loop, you clutch your new cotton tighter, a tangible win amid the mayhem. As midday peaks, the bazaars thrum with life, you navigating the chaos with growing weariness, the cotton soft against your skin, a reminder of the civilization's ingenuity in textiles. Another joke for the road. In this market, buyer's remorse hits before you even trade. What if that cloth shrinks in the next river wash? No returns policy here, just lessons in ancient economics. The vibrant scene fades slightly in the heat haze, but the haggling echoes on, pulling you through the overwhelm toward whatever comes next, the script's enigma, a gentle puzzle in your mind. Emerging from the bazaar's vibrant chaos, your new length of cotton cloth tucked under your arm like a hard-won trophy. You feel the midday heat bearing down even harder now, urging you to seek some shade for a modest lunch that might settle that lingering unease in your stomach from the morning's barley. The sun hangs high overhead, turning the brick streets into a radiating oven, and you duck into a narrow alleyway flanked by two-story homes, finding a spot under a simple awning of woven reeds that offers a sliver of cool shadow, nothing fancy, just enough to escape the relentless glare for a bit. Here in Mohenjo-Daro, lunchtime isn't a leisurely cafe break. It's a quick, practical repast grabbed amid the day's flow, often shared with family or fellow workers, featuring staples like flatbreads and pulses that tie back to the fertile river plains sustaining this civilization. You settle on a low brick ledge, the surface still warm but bearable in the shade, and unpack your modest provisions. Perhaps a leftover barley flatbread from breakfast, wrapped in a leaf for freshness, along with some lentils boiled earlier, and a handful of fresh vegetables like melons or cucumbers traded at the market. The air carries a faint, nutty aroma as you drizzle a bit of sesame oil over the lot, that versatile liquid gold the Indus people extracted from seeds cultivated right here in the valley. A mainstream historical fact being that sesame was one of their primary oil crops, used not just for flavoring food, but pressed into service for everything from cooking to trade exports reaching as far as ancient Mesopotamia. You take a bite, the oil adding a subtle richness to the otherwise plain lentils, its smooth texture coating your tongue and easing the dryness from the heat, though your modern palate misses the zing of spices that would come later in Indian history. Reflecting on the diets here as you chew slowly, savoring the shade's gentle relief, you ponder how vegetarian-leaning much of it seems at first glance, with abundant grains like wheat and barley forming the base, ground into flours or boiled into porridges, supplemented by fruits, vegetables, and legumes that grew lushly thanks to the Indus floods. But wait, evidence suggests it wasn't strictly plant-based. Recent studies of lipid residues in pottery reveal a dominance of animal products. including meat from cattle, buffalo, sheep, goats, and even pigs, alongside dairy like milk or ghee that added protein to daily meals. Your stomach, still adjusting from that heavy breakfast, might appreciate the balance, but in this heat, the modest portion feels just right light enough not to weigh you down, yet sustaining for the afternoon ahead. A gentle, sarcastic aside, if they had invented air-conditioned lunch spots, you'd be lingering over a salad bar. Instead, you're picnicking on bricks, hoping the sesame oil doesn't turn rancid in this sauna-like weather. The quirky uses of sesame oil pop into your mind as you take another drizzle-enhanced bite, that tidbit being how it wasn't limited to the plate archaeologists believe it fueled lamps for evening light, its clean burn illuminating homes without much smoke, or even served in rituals, perhaps anointing figurines, or used in early medicinal rubs for skin ailments in this dusty climate. You imagine dipping your bread into a small clay bowl of the oil, mixed with crushed herbs for flavor, the golden liquid glistening under the dappled shade as a soft breeze rustles the awning overhead. Sensory details draw you in deeper, the crunch of fresh cucumber against the soft lentil mush, the warm oil's nutty scent mingling with the alley's earthy brick aroma, and the distant hum of the city filtering through like a low, soothing white noise that could almost lull you into a nap right here. Seeking this shade was a smart move. The heat outside shimmers visibly now, distorting the air like a glitch in reality, making every uncovered spot feel like a furnace. You reflect further on the vegetarian aspects or lack thereof in their diets, pondering how plant foods dominated the agricultural output, with fields of barley and wheat waving along the riverbanks. But animal husbandry was key too, providing meat that studies show was consumed regularly, perhaps roasted over fires or stewed in pots. It's all tied to the environment, this modest repast reminding you of the civilization's harmony with the seasons, floods bringing fertile silt for crops, but also the need for protein from domesticated herds to survive lean times. Historians still argue whether the diet was predominantly vegetarian, with some older views emphasizing the abundance of grains and pulses as evidence of plant-focused eating influenced by early nonviolence ideals, while newer lipid analyses point to significant meat intake, suggesting a more omnivorous lifestyle that debunks purely herbivorous myths. You wipe your hands on your tunic after finishing, the sesame oil leaving a faint sheen on your fingers that's oddly moisturizing in the dry air, another quirky use, perhaps as a simple skin protectant against the sun's harsh rays. The shade cools your skin just enough to recharge, though the heat's persistence nags at you, making sweat bead anew as soon as you shift. A light joke to lighten the moment. Lunchtime in Mohenjo-Daro is like a quick debug session. Fix your hunger bug with basics, but don't expect gourmet updates. Sesame oil is the multi-tool hack, keeping it all running smoothly. Reflecting on, you appreciate the simplicity, how this repast fuels without fanfare, blending plants and possible animal elements in a balanced if unseasoned way that your body is slowly adapting to, protest or not. The uses of sesame oil extend your thoughts beyond food and lamps. It might have oiled wooden tools, or even been bartered as currency in those bazaars you just left, its value shining through in every drop. You lean back against the wall, the brick's texture pressing into your back, and let the reflection sink in. Diets here were practical, drawing from the land and livestock, vegetarian in parts but not exclusively, a mosaic of sustenance that powered urban life. Another soft quip: if you bottled this oil back home, it'd be a superfood trend ancient elixir for everything from salads to skincare. No influencers needed. As the heat simmers on, your modest lunch concludes with a sip of water from a clay flask, the coolness cutting through the oil's richness like a clean code refactor. Seeking shade proved essential, a brief oasis in the day's intensity, allowing these reflections to unfold gently. The quirky oil's versatility amuses you, from drizzling on lentils to lighting the night, a staple as enduring as the bricks around you. Your stomach feels steadier now, ready for whatever comes next, even as the debate on diets lingers like a subtle flavor. Was it mostly veggies or meatier than thought? Either way, it's nourishing history, pulling you deeper into the afternoon's quiet rhythm. You rise slowly, folding away the leaf wrapper, the shade's mercy fading as the sun shifts. Reflecting one last time, the vegetarian leanings blend with evidence of broader intake, sesame oil tying it all with its multifaceted quirks. A final joke. In this heat, lunch is survival mode. Eat light, stay shady, and thank the sesame for not letting things go completely dry. The city's pulse calls you onward, the repast a soothing interlude in the immersive day. With your modest lunch settling uneasily in the shade's fleeting comfort, the sesame oil's nutty aftertaste still lingering on your lips like a subtle reminder of simpler flavors, you wander back into the sun-drenched streets, drawn toward a quieter workshop area where the afternoon hums with the soft sounds of artisan crafts unfolding under open skies. The heat has mellowed just a touch as clouds drift lazily overhead, casting intermittent shadows over the brick courtyards where craftsmen hunch over their work, and you find yourself apprenticed, sort of, to a beadmaker's stall, the air thick with the faint mineral scent of steatite and agate being shaped by hand. No power tools in sight, of course. Everything here relies on manual precision, from simple bronze saws to drills made of hard stones like ernestite, a mainstream historical fact being that Indus artisans excelled in bead making, producing intricate pieces from materials like carnelian, lapis lazuli, and shell that were exported far and wide, adorning necks and wrists in distant Mesopotamia. You pick up a small block of soft steatite, that chalky white stone that's easy to carve but demands a steady hand and attempt to shape it into a bead, your fingers fumbling with a thin bronze blade that's sharper than it looks, slicing tentatively into the material with a soft scraping sound that echoes in the quiet courtyard. Frustration builds quickly. Without electric drills or sanders from your time, every cut feels imprecise, the blade slipping slightly and nicking the surface, turning what should be a smooth cylinder into a lopsided mess. You try again, sawing back and forth with rhythmic motions that make your wrists ache already. Dust particles floating up like tiny clouds in the warm air, settling on your skin in a fine layer that itches under the sun's persistent gaze. Sensory details pull you in gently, the gritty feel of stone powder between your fingers, the metallic tang of the bronze tool warming in your palm, and the distant clink of finished beads being strung together by a nearby artisan, their work gleaming like polished code output after a long debug session. Admiring the master's pile of perfect beads, tiny pearls of terracotta or etched carnelian that catch the light with subtle fire, you can't help a wave of envy, your own attempt looking like a beginner's sketch next to their masterpiece. The precision required is maddening. You'd need years of practice to match their skill, etching delicate patterns without a single wobble, all while squatting on the hard brick floor that digs into your knees. A gentle sarcastic aside, if they had invented power tools, bead making might feel like cheating at a craft fair. As it is, you're hacking away like a novice coder without autocomplete, errors popping up with every stroke. You chuckle softly to yourself, wiping sweat from your brow as the frustration mounts. Another slip, and your bead cracks slightly, forcing you to start over with a fresh piece. Shifting to pottery to give your hands a break, you move to a nearby wheel, a simple turntable spun by hand or foot, not the electric kind you're imagining, and scoop up a lump of moist clay from a shaded pit, its cool, earthy dampness squishing between your fingers like pliable data waiting to be molded. The Indus potters were masters of this, firing terracotta vessels in kilns that reached high temperatures for durability, but trying your hand reveals the frustration anew. Centering the clay on the wheel takes finesse you lack, the lump wobbling unevenly as you spin it slowly, your foot pumping a basic lever that creaks with each push. Without modern kilns or glazes at your disposal, you'd have to rely on natural slips for decoration, painting simple black motifs on redware that archaeologists have found in abundance, those geometric patterns or animal figures hinting at a symbolic language lost to time. Your pot starts to form, sort of a lumpy bowl emerging under your thumbs, but the walls thin unevenly, collapsing inward with a wet slap that splatters clay on your tunic. Frustration peaks here. The precision demands patience you didn't pack for this time travel jaunt, every rotation a test of control without stabilizers or templates. Quirky tidbit time. Some Indus beads were made from faience, a glazed earthenware that's like proto-porcelain, heated to create vibrant blues and greens for amulets or ceilings, perhaps even used in rituals to ward off evil. Imagine stringing those on a necklace, your DIY version looking more like a failed experiment than mystical bling. You grin despite the mess, flicking clay from your hands, the soft plop as it hits the ground adding to the afternoon's gentle chaos. The workshop's rhythm soothes even as you struggle, Artisans around you chatting in low tones while shaping pots or drilling holes in beads with earnestite tools. Tiny, hard stones twisted by hand to bore perfect perforations, a technique that required hours without breaking the fragile material. You try drilling one of your botched beads, twisting the drill bit with painstaking slowness, the high-pitched whine of stone on stone grating softly in your ears, but it snaps halfway through, scattering fragments like runtime errors crashing your program. Historians still argue whether this craft specialization pointed to a rigid social hierarchy, with dedicated artisans forming guilds or classes that controlled production and trade, or if it was more egalitarian, skills passed down in families without elite oversight, the absence of palaces fueling debates on how such precision emerged in a seemingly flat society. Frustrated but intrigued, you persist with the pottery, reforming the clay into a simpler shape, a basic cup, perhaps your thumbs pressing outward with careful pressure, the wheel spinning under your foot's steady pump like a manual loop iterating toward completion. No power tools mean no shortcuts. It's all feel and finesse, the clay yielding reluctantly to your untrained touch, leaving fingerprints that would bake in as imperfections. A light joke slips in. Attempting crafts here is like coding without Stack Overflow, pure trial and error, and your bead looks more like abstract art than jewelry. At least in your era, you could 3D print the frustration away. The sun filters through the awning now, warming the clay to a sticky consistency that clings to everything, heightening the sensory immersion, the damp earth smell rising with each spin, the cool slip of mud on skin, the soft murmurs of craftsmen approving their own work. You step back from the wheel, your lumpy creation wobbling to a stop, and try bead making once more, etching a simple line into steatite with the bronze saw thinner cuts for those soft beads, as experts note, creating uniform shapes that stacked neatly for trade. But precision eludes you again. The line veers off, ruining the symmetry, and you toss it aside with a sigh, frustration tempered by the afternoon's lazy pace. Another quirky detail, beads often featured etched designs mimicking animal hides or eyes, perhaps for protective charms, a touch of whimsy in their practical craft that makes your failed attempts feel less disastrous. The without power tools reality grinds on, your hands cramping from the effort, but there's a meditative quality to it all. The repetitive motions, the quiet focus, like optimizing code line by line without compilers to catch mistakes. A soft quip. If frustration were a craft, you'd be a master artisan by now. Too bad they don't trade beads for patience points in this valley. Scholars debate if these skills fostered innovation or stagnation, the lack of major tech leaps suggesting a stable but static society, or hidden progress buried in undeciphered seals. As the afternoon wears on, you wipe your hands on your tunic, clay and dust mingling into a gritty paste, the precision's demand leaving you weary but with a newfound respect for these ancient makers. Frustration fades into quiet reflection, the craft's rhythm a soothing thread in the day's tapestry, pulling you gently toward evening. As the afternoon sun dips a little lower, softening the glare on the workshop bricks where your clay-smeared hands still tingle from those frustrating craft attempts, you find yourself drawn back into the flow of the streets, engaging with a diverse array of traders who've converged from afar, their voices weaving a tapestry of unfamiliar accents that buzz like a lively marketplace algorithm processing endless inputs. You pause at a cluster of stalls near the central avenue, where merchants from distant lands, perhaps the highlands of Baluchistan or even the shores of the Arabian Sea, spread out their exotic wares like shells and lapis lazuli beads, bartering with locals in a mix of gestures and shared words that transcend language barriers. The air hums with quiet energy, the scent of sesame oil from a nearby lamp mingling with the dusty earth, and you strike up a conversation, or at least try to, with a bearded trader unloading bundles of wool, his tunic frayed from long journeys, nodding warmly as you point to his goods in that universal sign of interest. Navigating these social interactions feels like stepping into a well-structured system of customs, where unspoken rules guide every exchange without the need for overt commands. People greet each other with simple palms-together gestures or a slight bow, a custom that emphasizes respect and harmony in this peace-loving society. You mimic the motion, your hands pressing lightly as you engage, feeling a bit awkward but welcomed into the fold. No handshakes or high fives here, just these subtle nods that keep things egalitarian on the surface. A mainstream historical fact slips in. The Indus Valley civilization showed remarkable signs of social equality, with no evidence of grand palaces, temples dominating the skyline, or burial sites laden with riches for kings, suggesting a society where power was distributed rather than concentrated in a ruling elite, unlike the pharaohs of Egypt or the kings of Mesopotamia. But as you chat or gesture further, those unspoken hierarchies start to reveal themselves in subtle ways, like layers in a complex data structure. The trader defers slightly to an older man overseeing the stall, perhaps a family elder or a merchant of higher standing, his voice lowering in deference during the exchange. You notice how interactions flow based on age, occupation, or even the quality of one's beads and seals. Those with finer crafts seem to command more attention, hinting at a merit-based pecking order hidden beneath the city's uniform brick facades. Engaging with a female trader selling terracotta figurines, you navigate gender roles that feel surprisingly balanced for the time. Women appear active in trade and crafts, handling goods with confidence, their presence in public spaces suggesting a level of autonomy that might surprise your modern sensibilities. Yet customs dictate certain divisions. Men often lead the bartering for heavy items like bronze tools, while women manage textiles or ornaments, all within a framework that values family units as the core of social life. You try to join in, offering your newly acquired cotton cloth in a mock trade, but the unspoken rules trip you up. A light pause ensues when you forget to let the elder speak first, earning a gentle smile rather than rebuke, like the system has built-in error correction for newcomers. Diverse traders add flavor, one from the north with etched ivory, another with spices that tease your nose like hints of future curry blends, each bringing customs from their homelands, blending into Mohenjo-Daro's melting pot without friction. A gentle sarcastic aside, if they had invented business cards, these interactions might skip the awkward gesturing. As it is, you're networking like a startup founder at an ancient convention, hoping your smile seals the deal instead of a handshake app. Delving deeper into customs, you observe how social bonds form around shared wells or courtyards, where neighbors exchange news with quiet efficiency, perhaps discussing the river's latest flood patterns or the quality of this season's barley. Remember that heavy breakfast. It's a staple in these chats, tying sustenance to community ties. Unspoken hierarchies surface again in how space is allocated. Larger homes might belong to those with more trade connections, implying subtle wealth differences, though nothing flashy, no golden thrones or jeweled crowns here. Gender roles weave in intriguingly. Women, often depicted in terracotta figurines with elaborate hairstyles and jewelry, seem to hold sway in domestic spheres, possibly indicating a matriarchal lean where mothers or elder women guided family decisions. A quirky tidbit being that some figurines show females in positions of prominence, adorned with headdresses that might symbolize authority or ritual roles, almost like early icons of empowerment crafted from simple clay. You engage more boldly now, trading small talk with a group of traders around a shared water pot. The cool liquid passed hand to hand in a custom of hospitality that fosters trust. No solo sipping here, it's communal, reinforcing bonds in this diverse crowd. Navigating hierarchies means reading the room. Defer to elders, acknowledge skills, and avoid boasting, all unspoken codes that keep the peace in a society without visible armies or walls bristling with defenses. But gender dynamics add nuance. You see a woman leading a barter for shells, her voice firm yet calm, while men handle the loading, suggesting roles divided by practicality rather than strict patriarchy, though customs like arranged marriages, likely family affairs, might underscore traditional ties. Historians still argue whether this was truly an egalitarian society or one masking hierarchies behind its uniformity. Some point to the lack of weapons in graves and equal-sized homes as proof of flat structure, while others cite specialized crafts and trade monopolies as evidence of subtle elites, perhaps priestly classes or merchant overlords who influenced without overt rule, a debate that echoes in the undeciphered script on those seals you glimpsed earlier. You ponder this as you step back from the group, a light joke bubbling up. Engaging here is like joining a group chat without emojis. You navigate hierarchies by vibe alone, hoping you don't accidentally at the wrong elder and start a thread of awkward silences. The diverse interactions continue to unfold, traders sharing stories with animated hands, customs blending seamlessly like modular code components. A nod here, a shared drink there, all building social cohesion. Gender roles feel fluid yet defined. Women multitask with ease, perhaps weaving while trading, their presence a testament to balance in this valley's rhythm. Another quirky detail: figurines often portray women with birds or plants, symbolizing fertility or nature connections, adding a layer of custom where gender tied to life's cycles, making your engagements feel tied to deeper traditions. Unspoken hierarchies guide you gently, yield to the experienced, honor the diverse origins, and you adapt slowly, frustration from earlier crafts fading into this social flow. A soft quip: if customs were an algorithm, this society's would be elegantly recursive loop through respect, branch on gender roles, and output harmony without a single error crash. Sensory wraps around, rewraps. The warmth of shared laughter, the glint of beads in traded hands, the faint river breeze carrying whispers of far-off lands. Engaging onward, you feel the egalitarian pull, hierarchies subtle like background processes, gender customs a balanced interface. Diverse traders enrich it all, their customs merging in Mohenjo-Daro's grid. Another light joke: navigating this is like optimizing social code. No hierarchies overload, just efficient interactions that keep the system running smoothly, even for a time traveler like you fumbling the inputs. As twilight hints on the horizon, these interactions linger, a soothing network of human connections in an ancient world, pulling you toward evening's calm. With the afternoon's social chatter fading behind you like a gently closing door, the diverse traders' voices blending into the cooling twilight breeze that whispers through the streets, you make your way toward the city's grandest feature, the Great Bath, where the day's dust and weariness beckon you to immerse yourself in its ancient waters as the sun dips lower, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples. The air grows cooler now, a merciful shift from the midday heat that had you seeking shade earlier, and you descend the wide brick steps leading down to the massive pool, your feet padding softly on the smooth surfaces worn by countless others before you. The bath looms before you, an impressive rectangular tank measuring about 12 meters by 7 meters, lined with finely fitted bricks, sealed watertight. A mainstream historical fact as the earliest known public water tank in the world, built around 2500 BCE to hold water for communal or ritual use. Its engineering a marvel that kept it leak-proof for centuries without modern sealants. You slip into the water slowly, the cooling twilight waters enveloping your skin with a refreshing chill that chases away the lingering sweat from your artisan frustrations and market haggling, the liquid clear and still, reflecting the fading light like a mirror to the heavens. No bubbles or jets here, just the gentle lap of water against the sides as you wade deeper, up to your chest, feeling the buoyancy lift some of the day's weight off your shoulders, literally and figuratively. Sensory details wrap around you soothingly. The cool silkiness of the water gliding over your limbs, the faint mineral tang in the air from the brick lining, and the soft echoes of distant city sounds muffled by the bath's high walls, creating an almost meditative hush that could lull you into a peaceful doze if you let it. You float a bit, contemplating the ritual purposes that historians attribute to this place, likely a site for purification ceremonies, where people cleansed themselves before religious rites, tying into the civilization's emphasis on hygiene and spiritual cleanliness that echoed through their advanced drainage systems. Remember those from your morning routine? As you immerse further, letting the water cover your shoulders, a quirky tidbit floats to mind like one of the symbolic fish motifs that might have swum in these waters through carvings or seals. The bath was waterproofed with a layer of natural bitumen, a tar-like substance applied between bricks, creating a seal so effective that modern archaeologists marveled at its durability, almost like the Indus folks invented ancient Tupperware for their sacred pools, keeping everything fresh and leak-free. You chuckle softly to yourself, the sound rippling across the surface. If they had added some bath salts or essential oils, this could be a spa day. Instead, it's ritual immersion with a side of historical mystery, no rubber duckies included. The cooling twilight deepens, stars beginning to peek out overhead, and you ponder how this bath might have hosted gatherings, perhaps priests or community members dipping in unison, chanting softly in a language lost to time. The water's believed to renew body and soul in preparation for festivals or daily devotions. Contemplating deeper, you swirl your hands through the water, creating tiny eddies that swirl like thoughts in your mind, wondering about the exact rituals performed here. No grand altars or statues dominate, just the pool itself, suggesting it was central to spiritual life without overt idols. The absence of clear religious iconography leaves room for interpretation, making you feel connected yet adrift in this immersive moment. A gentle, sarcastic aside creeps in. Dipping here feels like joining an exclusive club without knowing the secret handshake, or, in this case, the sacred splash. At least there's no lifeguard blowing a whistle for improper floating technique. You lean back against the steps, the bricks cool and unyielding under your back, letting the water cradle you as twilight's purple hues deepen. The city's lights flickering oil lamps from distant homes, beginning to dot the horizon like early stars. The ritual purposes unfold in your imagination. Perhaps ablutions before entering sacred spaces, or communal baptisms symbolizing rebirth with each monsoon season, tying into the river's life-giving floods that sustained everything from your barley breakfast to the granary labors. Historians still argue whether the Great Bath was purely a site for ritual purification, akin to later Hindu bathing traditions in the Ganges, or if it served as a temple in itself, a social hub for gatherings where water symbolized fertility and renewal, with some scholars debating its links to Proto-Hinduism based on the lack of violent imagery and emphasis on cleanliness, while others see it as more secular, a public pool for hygiene in a hot climate, a puzzle that remains as undeciphered as those market seals you couldn't read. You submerge your head briefly, the water muffling all sound into a womb-like quiet, emerging with droplets cascading down your face, refreshed and contemplative. The quirky bitumen ceiling fascinates you anew, sourced from natural seeps applied meticulously to prevent even a drop from escaping, a tidbit that highlights their ingenuity, perhaps even used in boat building along the Indus, making this bath a testament to practical magic. Another light joke bubbles up. Immersing in twilight waters like this, you'd think it was designed for stargazing hydrotherapy. Too bad there's no ancient playlist of relaxing river sounds to complete the vibe. The cooling air nips at your wet skin now, urging you not to linger too long, but the peace is palpable, the bath's walls enclosing you in a sanctuary of sorts, away from the day's earlier chaos of streets and crafts. Contemplating ritual purposes once more, you envision moonlit ceremonies, participants entering via the bath's 2 staircases, perhaps carrying offerings of sesame oil tying back to your lunch drizzle for anointing the waters. The scholarly debate adds layers. Was it exclusive to elites or open to all, reflecting the egalitarian vibes you sensed in social interactions? Evidence leans toward communal use, but without texts, it's all informed guesswork, like piecing together code from fragments without the compiler. You float idly, the water's gentle current fed perhaps from underground wells carrying away tensions. Twilight fully embracing the scene with a serene glow that softens every edge. Immersing deeper into the moment, you feel the bath's vastness, its depth reaching about 2.4 meters in the center, enough to swim short laps if you wanted, though rituals likely favored stillness over splashes. A final soft quip. If the Great Bath had a Yelp review from ancient times, it'd be 5 stars for ambiance, but deduct 1 for no towels provided drip dry in the twilight breeze it is. Sensory immersion peaks, the chill seeping into your bones pleasantly, the twilight's hush broken only by faint water drips from the ledges, the faint scent of wet brick evoking timeless purity. As evening settles, you climb out reluctantly, water sheeting off your skin in the cooling air, contemplating how this ritual dip might have ended many a day here, purified, renewed, ready for dinner and rest. The Great Bath's purposes linger in your thoughts, a soothing enigma amid the twilight waters that have held secrets for millennia, pulling you gently toward the night's embrace. Refreshed from your twilight dip in the Great Bath, the cooling waters still clinging to your skin like a gentle memory as you drip dry in the evening breeze, you make your way home through the dimming streets, the first stars twinkling overhead like distant fireflies guiding you back to the warmth of family and a simple dinner shared with kin. The air has cooled significantly now, carrying the faint, comforting sense of cooking fires from neighboring courtyards, and you slip into your cramped brick home where your family spouse, children, perhaps an elder or two, gathers around a low hearth, the flickering flames casting soft shadows on the walls that dance like quiet companions in this intimate space. No grand dining tables here, just reed mats spread on the floor for everyone to sit cross-legged, knees brushing in the cozy closeness that defines family time in Mohenjo-Daro, where meals are communal rituals tying the day's labors to the night's rest. You settle in, your tunic still damp from the bath, and help portion out the flatbreads, those familiar discs made from wheat or barley flour, kneaded earlier and baked over the open fire until they're warm and slightly charred at the edges. A mainstream historical fact being that these grains formed the dietary backbone of the Indus Valley civilization, with archaeological evidence from sites like Harappa showing abundant remains of wheat, barley, and lentils ground into flours for everyday sustenance, sustaining urban populations through efficient farming along the river plains. You tear off a piece, the bread yielding with a soft crackle under your fingers, and pass it around the circle, each family member taking their share with nods of quiet gratitude, the act of sharing fostering bonds in this egalitarian setup where no one eats alone. It's all about the collective, much like the shared wells and drains that kept the city humming. As you chew slowly, savoring the earthy, nutty flavor that's plain but filling, you can't help chuckling inwardly at the lack of spices that would later define the region. No fiery chilies or aromatic cumin blends turning every bite into an explosion of taste. Just perhaps a drizzle of sesame oil or a sprinkle of crushed sesame seeds for subtle enhancement, leaving the meal wholesome yet understated in a way that makes your modern spice rack seem like overkill. Sensory details envelop you gently, the warmth of the bread in your hands contrasting the cooling evening air slipping through the doorway, the faint smoky tang from the fire mingling with the simple aroma of boiled lentils served alongside, and the soft murmurs of your kin chatting about the day's events, the market trades, the granary shifts, or that quirky bead you tried, and failed, to craft earlier, their laughter light and unhurried like a soothing lullaby winding down the day. Family time unfolds in these moments, you engaging in the quiet customs of passing food hand to hand, perhaps telling a simple story from the bazaar to the children who listen wide-eyed, their small hands sticky from dates added as a sweet touch to the meal. Remember those from breakfast? They're a staple treat here, chewy and natural, without the sugary overload you're used to. A gentle, sarcastic aside creeps in. Sharing flatbreads like this feels like a team-building exercise without the awkward icebreakers. At least there's no one hogging the last piece. Or you'd have to barter your new cotton cloth for it. No takers on that damp tunic, though. You chuckle softly aloud now, earning smiles from your kin, the humor lightening the plainness of the fare, which might include a modest portion of stewed pulses or even grilled fish from the river, tying back to the diet's balance of plants and proteins. Pondering the lack of spices deeper as you take another bite, the bread's blandness a stark contrast to the vibrant curries that would evolve millennia later with trade routes bringing black pepper, turmeric, and more. You reflect on how the Indus palate relied on basics grains, legumes, fruits like melons or grapes, and oil seeds for flavor, a quirky tidbit being that sesame was cultivated widely, its seeds pressed for oil or scattered whole into dishes for a nutty crunch, possibly even roasted as an early snack, almost like proto-popcorn, but without the butter or drama of a movie night. It's amusing, this simplicity. Your stomach, still adjusting from lunch's heaviness, appreciates the lightness, though you miss the kick that spices would bring. Imagine if they had discovered chili peppers early, dinner might be a fiery affair instead of this mellow gathering. The family circle tightens as the fire crackles softly, embers glowing like tiny stars on the hearth, and you share more, perhaps a bit of dairy from domesticated cattle, like curd mixed into the lentils for creaminess, highlighting how animal products rounded out the meals despite the grain focus. Historians still argue whether the Indus diet was predominantly vegetarian, with some emphasizing the abundance of plant remains and lack of widespread hunting tools as evidence of a plant-based lifestyle influenced by early nonviolence principles, while newer residue analyses on pottery reveal significant traces of meat and dairy from animals like cattle, sheep, and fish, suggesting a more omnivorous approach that balanced agriculture with husbandry in this riverine environment. A debate that adds flavor to your thoughts, even if the meal itself lacks it. You pass another flatbread to your spouse, your hands brushing in a familiar touch that speaks volumes in this quiet time, the children giggling over a shared date pit tossed playfully, turning dinner into playful bonding without gadgets or distractions. Just human connection, raw and real. A light joke for the moment, Chuckling at the spice void, you'd think they saved all the flavor for those undeciphered seals. Maybe the script hides recipes for ancient hot sauce, waiting to be cracked like a culinary code. The lack persists, but it's endearing, this unadorned sharing that nourishes body and soul, kin leaning in to recount the day's small triumphs, like your market haggle or the elder's wise nod during social chats earlier. As the meal winds down, you wipe your hands on a leaf or the edge of your tunic, the fire dimming to embers that cast a warm glow on faces relaxed in contentment. Family time, a soothing anchor in the evening's calm. Chuckling again at how later regions would spice things up. Think of the masalas defining Indian cuisine. Post-Indus, you appreciate the purity here. Flatbreads simple, yet sustaining. Like a well-structured base class before inheritance adds complexity. Another soft quip. If dinner were a program, this one's efficient but debugged of extras. No spice overflows crashing the palate. Just clean execution with kin as your runtime support. The quirky sesame sprinkles add a touch of whimsy, perhaps ground into a paste for dipping. A tidbit that hints at flavor innovation without overwhelming the basics. Your kin shares a final story, voices softening as night deepens. The lack of spices a gentle reminder of evolution ahead, while the debate on diet lingers like a subtle aftertaste. Was it veggie-leaning or meat-inclusive? Evidence points both ways, enriching the historical puzzle. Family time eases into quiet, you feeling full not just from flatbreads but from connection. The evening's rhythm pulling you toward leisure, chuckles fading into peaceful sighs amid the kin's warm circle. With dinner's simple flatbread shared and the family's soft chatter winding down like a gentle fade-out in the hearth's dying embers, you feel the evening's leisure beckon, pulling you into a quiet corner of the courtyard where ancient games await under the starry sky that's now fully unveiled, twinkling like scattered code points in a vast digital canvas. The cooling night air brushes your skin, still faintly damp from the great bath, carrying the distant murmur of the river as you settle on a reed mat with your kin, the group forming a loose circle illuminated by a small sesame oil lamp flickering softly, its nutty scent a familiar thread from earlier meals, now fueling this unwind time instead of flavoring food. No streaming services or glowing screens here to distract. Just the basics of entertainment that the Indus folks turn to after a long day, like rolling dice or moving counters on makeshift boards scratched into the brick floor. Activities that feel quaintly analog in your tech-savvy mind. You pick up a set of ancient dice-small cubicle pieces carved from terracotta or ivory, each face marked with dots from 1 to 6, just like the ones you'd find in a modern board game box back home. A mainstream historical fact being that such dice have been unearthed at Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, dating back to around 2500 BCE, providing evidence of games of chance that mirrored contemporary play in their numbering system, and suggesting leisure was a structured part of daily life even then. You roll one experimentally, the die tumbling across the mat with a soft clatter, landing on a 4 that elicits nods from your family, perhaps signaling a move in whatever simple game they're setting up. No apps notifying you of high scores, just the tactile feel of the cool terracotta in your palm, its edges worn smooth from countless hands before yours. Boredom creeps in already. Compared to your digital distractions with endless levels and multiplayer lobbies, this feels like booting up a retro console with only one cartridge, repetitive and unchallenging. Attempting to engage, you join in what seems like a primitive board game. Counters tiny cones or sticks made from bone or clay, placed on a grid drawn in the dust with a stick. The rules conveyed through gestures and low laughs, since words alone don't bridge your time gap confusion. You move your piece based on the die roll, hopping it along imaginary paths that might represent rivers or streets, the game's simplicity leaving you yawning subtly as the night deepens, stars wheeling overhead in a display that's far more captivating than the play at hand. Sensory details draw you in despite the boredom. The gritty texture of dust under your fingers as you redraw a line, the faint warmth of the lamp's flame on your face contrasting the chill breeze and the rhythmic clink of dice against each other like a minimalist soundtrack to this ancient downtime. Your mind wanders to how this compares to binge-watching or scrolling feeds. Here, entertainment is communal, slow-paced, without the dopamine hits of notifications pinging every second. Bored by the repetition, you roll again, the die spinning lazily before settling on a 2, prompting a family member to advance their counter with a triumphant grin. as if winning this round means something profound in the game's lore. A gentle, sarcastic aside, if they had invented microtransactions, maybe you'd buy some extra rolls to spice things up. As it is, you're grinding through levels that feel eternally stuck on tutorial mode. No power-ups in sight. You chuckle softly to yourself, the sound blending with the group's light-hearted banter, but the simplicity nags. No complex strategies like in your chess apps or RPGs, just chance and basic moves that could loop forever without a clear endgame. Quirky tidbit alert: not all dice were cubic. Some found at Indus sites were tetrahedral or elongated sticks with markings, possibly used in divination games where the shape symbolized fate or animal forms, almost like early random number generators with a mystical twist, adding a layer of whimsy to what otherwise feels like preschool playtime under the stars. You try to amp up the fun, suggesting through mime a variation where counters jump over each other, but the family sticks to tradition, their patience with the game's pace, a stark contrast to your fidgeting boredom. Digital habits making every pause feel like lag in a slow connection. The board evolves slightly, perhaps resembling precursors to games like Pachisi or Snakes and Ladders, with paths that wind like the Indus River itself, but without ladders to climb or snakes to slide. It's all flat progression that mirrors the valley's landscape, predictable, unchanging. Historians still argue whether these gaming artifacts indicate a unified cultural practice across the vast Indus civilization, with standardized dice suggesting shared leisure norms from Mohenjo-Daro to Lothal, or if regional variations existed like different board designs reflecting local myths or trade influences, a debate fueled by the scarcity of complete game sets in the archaeological record and the undeciphered script that might hold rulebooks lost to time. Attempting another roll, the die clatters to a 6, letting you surge ahead in the grid, but the victory feels hollow. No victory screen flashing, no achievements unlocked, just a nod from your kin, and on to the next turn. Boredom deepens as the game drags, your thoughts drifting to VR worlds or mobile puzzles that evolve with every update. Here, it's static, like running legacy code without patches, functional but forgotten in its simplicity. A light joke slips in. Playing this, you'd think entertainment peaked at rolling rocks downhill. At least digital distractions let you level up without waiting for the stars to align your luck. The family's engagement amuses you. They're immersed, chatting over moves, turning the game into social glue that binds the evening without needing high-res graphics. You persist, moving counters with feigned enthusiasm, the dice's weight in your hand a reminder of ancient ingenuity carved precisely, perhaps with those bronze tools you saw in the market, turning chance into a communal ritual. But compared to your era's endless options, it's boringly sparse, like a database with only one table. Roll, move, repeat. Another quirky detail. Some counters resembled animals or abstract shapes, possibly tying games to storytelling, where a bull piece might represent strength in a race, adding narrative flair that's lost on you without the lore. Sensory pull continues. The cool night air nipping at your arms. The lamps flicker, casting elongated shadows of the dice like playful ghosts. The soft thud of pieces on the mat syncing with your slowing breaths. The game's simplicity bores you further as turns cycle, digital cravings making you itch for a screen imagined swiping through apps instead of this analog loop. Scholars debate if such leisure fostered social equality, with games accessible to all classes implying a flat hierarchy, or if elite versions existed in larger homes, hidden from digs. A soft quip. If boredom were a game mechanic, you'd have maxed it out by now. Thank goodness for family vibes turning tedium into tolerable fun. No respawns needed. Attempting to innovate, you stack dice for a tower variant, earning puzzled laughs that lighten the mood. But the core remains unchanged, simple, communal, starlit play that's oddly relaxing in its monotony, pulling you towards sleep's edge even as boredom nags. Compared to pixels and processors, it's primitive, yet pure, like clean code without bloat. As the game winds down, counters scattered in a final configuration. You lean back against the brick wall, stars above a vast entertainment alternative, boredom giving way to quiet contentment in this ancient leisure loop. As the dice game wraps up in the courtyard, the family's laughter fading into contented sighs under the starry blanket that's now fully draped over Mohenjo-Daro, you feel the pull of rest tugging at you, leading you inside to settle in for the night on that familiar reed mat laid out on the hard brick floor. Darkness falls swiftly here, the oil lamp's flame snuffed out with a soft puff, leaving only the faint glow of moonlight slipping through the narrow window slits to outline the room's snug confines. Walls of uniform baked bricks that suddenly feel a tad too enclosing, like a secure server room but without the hum of fans to ward off overheating worries. You lie down, pulling a simple cotton sheet over yourself. Remember that market find, now dry and soft against your skin, and try to relax, but nighttime security concerns creep in like uninvited bugs in your code, making you anxious about the floods or wild animals lurking in this flood-prone valley, where the Indus River's whims could turn peaceful nights into chaotic ordeals. The air inside is still, heavy with the day's lingering warmth, and you shift on the mat, its woven reeds creaking faintly under your weight, a sound that's almost comforting in its familiarity, but not quite enough to drown out the distant rush of the river, a constant murmuring reminder of the valley's watery backbone. Historians know as a mainstream fact that cities like Mohenjo-Daro were ingeniously built on raised brick platforms, some as high as several meters, to protect against the frequent floods from the Indus, with archaeological digs revealing layers of silt deposits that show the city was inundated multiple times, yet rebuilt with resilient engineering that kept homes elevated above the danger zone. But lying here in the dark, that fact feels less reassuring. You imagine the water rising stealthily overnight, seeping through the street's clever drains that worked so well in the morning, now overwhelmed by a sudden surge, turning your cozy home into a soggy trap, no flood alerts pinging your phone, just the ominous gurgle echoing from outside. Anxious thoughts swirl as you stare at the ceiling, the bricks above seeming to press down in the blackness, and you ponder the wild animals that roamed this region. Tigers, elephants, rhinos, and water buffaloes depicted on those mysterious seals you glimpsed in the bazaar, their fierce forms carved as if to warn of real threats slinking through the night. The valley's flood-prone nature meant lush grasslands and jungles nearby, perfect habitats for these beasts, and without sturdy doors or locks on your home's simple entrance, just a reed curtain swaying in the breeze. You worry about a curious tiger padding in, drawn by the scent of leftover flatbreads or the warmth of sleeping bodies. A gentle sarcastic aside, if they had invented night lights or animal repellents, maybe you'd sleep like a log. As it is, you're debugging worst-case scenarios in your head, hoping no wild interrupt crashes your rest cycle. You chuckle softly to yourself, the sound muffled in the quiet room, but it doesn't fully chase away the unease. Imagine waking to a rhino's snort outside. Those quirky unicorn seals suddenly less mythical and more menacing. Settling deeper into the mat, you feel the coolness of the floor seeping up through the reeds, a sensory anchor that's oddly grounding amid the worries, the faint, earthy smell of bricks mixing with the night's crisp air wafting in. Floods loom largest in your mind. The river, so vital for the crops that fed your barley meals, could betray the city in monsoon season, swelling without warning and breaching the platforms that were meant to safeguard everything. You recall how the civilization thrived on those annual inundations for fertile soil, but excessive ones might have spelled disaster, leaving mud-slicked streets and homes to dry out under the sun. No emergency kits or evacuation plans, just community grit to rebuild. Quirky tidbit time. Those seals often featured stylized unicorns, likely one-horned rhinos or profile views of bulls, symbolizing the wild animals that shared the valley, perhaps even revered or feared in folklore as guardians or omens, adding a layer of mythical security to the real nighttime perils, like nature's own CAPTCHA test for survival. Your anxiety builds softly, not in panic, but in a drifting unease as you listen to the family's even breaths nearby. Kin huddled close for warmth and protection in this communal sleeping arrangement, no private rooms to isolate your fears. Wild animals add to the fret. Elephants could trumpet in the distance, their massive forms trampling fields or wandering too close to the city's edges, while tigers, stealthy hunters of the grasslands, might prowl for stray cattle, or worse, venture into unguarded lanes. Without city walls geared for defense, more for flood control than fortification, the night feels exposed, vulnerable to the valley's untamed side. A light joke to ease the tension. Lying here worrying about floods, it's like waiting for a system overflow error, no backup server, just hoping the river's algorithm doesn't glitch tonight. The darkness amplifies every rustle outside, perhaps a stray dog or wind, but your mind spins it into a buffalo's huff, making sleep elusive despite the day's exhaustion from granary labors and craft attempts. Contemplating further, you ponder how these concerns shape daily life. The flood-prone setup demanding constant vigilance, with platforms and wells designed to mitigate risks, but not eliminate them entirely. Scholars still argue whether floods were the primary culprit in the civilization's decline around 1900 BCE, with some pointing to repeated inundations and river shifts as evidence of environmental catastrophe that disrupted agriculture and trade, while others debate if climate change leading to droughts or even invasions despite the lack of warfare signs played bigger roles. Perhaps wild animal encroachments increased as habitats shifted, adding subtle threats to an already precarious balance. It's a puzzle that drifts lazily in your thoughts, like the river's current, soothing in its historical distance, yet stirring your present anxiety. You roll onto your side, pulling the sheet tighter, the mat's texture pressing into your hip as a reminder of simplicity's double edge, comforting yet Spartan, leaving room for worries to nestle in. Another soft quip. Anxious about wild animals? You'd almost welcome a digital distraction like scrolling cat videos. Instead, it's real cats of the big striped variety that might be scrolling you on their menu. Sensory immersion deepens the scene. The cool draft tickling your neck, the faint metallic taste of well water still on your lips from dinner, the shadowy outlines of family forms rising and falling in sleep's rhythm. Floods whisper threats in your ear, the valley's proneness a legacy etched in silt layers unearthed by digs, making you grateful for the raised home, but wary of the next monsoon swell. Nighttime security weighs on you, darkness a canvas for imagined perils, water rising silently, animals slinking through unguarded paths, yet the city's engineering offers quiet reassurance, those platforms a buffer against nature's moods. A final light joke. Settling in like this, it's bedtime stories where you're the protagonist facing flood dragons or tiger quests. No save points, just dawn's reset button to look forward to. The anxiety softens gradually, lulled by the river's distant song, a hypnotic backdrop that blends worry into weariness, pulling you towards slumber even as concerns linger like unresolved threads in a complex system. You close your eyes, breathing deeply, the flood-prone valley's risks fading into the background hum of history, wild animals mere shadows in the mind. Another turn on the mat, and sleep edges closer, the night's embrace gentle despite the frets, a soothing end to the day's immersive tale. Lying there on your reed mat in the enveloping darkness, the anxious whispers of floods and wild animals slowly ebbing away like a receding tide, as your family's steady breaths fill the room with a rhythmic calm. You find your mind drifting to deeper reflections on the urban mysteries that have wrapped around you all day in this enigmatic city of Mohenjo-Daro. The cool night air seeps through the window slit, carrying a faint chill that prickles your skin under the cotton sheet, and you stare into the shadows, pondering the undeciphered script that teased you in the bazaars, those small steatite seals stamped with cryptic symbols and animal motifs, their meanings locked away like encrypted data in an ancient database you can't access. No bedtime reading here to lull you. Instead, your thoughts spiral around how this civilization built such ordered urban wonders without leaving a single translatable word behind. The script's short inscriptions on seals and pottery shards, a tantalizing puzzle that has stumped scholars for over a century, hinting at trade records or rituals, but yielding nothing concrete. You shift slightly, the mat creaking softly beneath you, its woven texture a subtle reminder of the day's artisan frustrations, and reflect on the city's grid pattern layout that guided your steps from dawn's cramped awakening to the bustling streets. Those straight avenues running north-south and east-west, a mainstream historical fact of Indus urban planning where Mohenjo-Daro's streets were meticulously organized on raised platforms, ensuring efficient drainage and flood resistance while creating a sense of harmonious order that feels almost too perfect for its time, like a well-structured algorithm designed for scalability without the bugs of chaos. But oh, the mysteries deepen in this quiet hour. Why no grand tales etched in stone? No epic inscriptions boasting of conquests or gods? The script remains silent, its pictographic signs, lines, arrows, and figures defying every attempt at decoding, leaving you to wonder if it recorded mundane market lists or profound philosophies, all lost in the sands like uncompiled code waiting for the right interpreter. Pondering further, you can't shake the absent warfare that defines this place's peaceful enigma, your mind flashing back to the lack of weapons unearthed in the digs. No swords, spears, or arrowheads cluttering the ruins, no depictions of battles on those seals, just serene animals and figures in apparent harmony. The city walls, more for corralling floods than repelling invaders, stand as silent witnesses to a society that seemingly thrived without the scars of conflict, making you anxious earlier about animals but now reflective on how humans here might have avoided fighting each other altogether. Sensory details ground you in the moment, the cool brick floor radiating a subtle chill up through the mat, the distant hoot of an owl piercing the night like a natural alert system, and the faint earthy scent of the walls mingling with your own skin's clean post-bath freshness, all weaving into this contemplative haze where the absence of warfare feels like a deliberate design choice, perhaps rooted in trade over tribute or shared resources that kept tensions low. A gentle, sarcastic aside creeps in as you smile into the darkness. If they had wars, maybe the script would decode to battle hymns or victory tweets. Instead, it's probably just shopping lists for more barley, no drama included. Talk about a peaceful plot twist. You chuckle softly to yourself, careful not to wake your kin, the sound absorbed by the room's thick bricks, and delve into the quirky tidbit of those seal depictions like the famous unicorns, actually stylized one-horned rhinos or profile views of bulls, symbolizing perhaps a reverence for the wild animals that shared the valley. Not as enemies to conquer, but as part of the ecosystem, adding a layer of mythical peace to the urban fabric where humans coexisted without the need for militaristic might. Imagine rolling one of those in your dice game earlier. A unicorn counter might have meant good luck, not a call to arms, turning leisure into a nod at harmonious living. The peaceful enigma unfolds in your thoughts like a slowly rendering simulation, you pondering how this civilization spanned vast territories without evidence of kings' palaces or temples dominating the skyline. No ziggurats or pyramids screaming hierarchy, just uniform homes and public baths suggesting an egalitarian vibe where decisions might have been communal, like a decentralized network rather than a top-down monarchy. But doubts linger in the scholarly debates that echo in your mind. Historians still argue whether the absence of warfare truly proves a peaceful society, with some pointing to the lack of fortifications, weapons, or skeletal trauma as evidence of non-violent norms possibly influenced by trade interdependence and resource abundance, while others caution it's an unchallenged assumption. Perhaps warfare evidence simply didn't preserve, or conflicts were resolved through non-lethal means, or even that the decline involved subtle invasions masked by the undeciphered script, a puzzle that keeps the enigma alive like an unsolved theorem in your favorite algorithms. You turn onto your side, the sheet rustling faintly, and let the reflections flow, the urban mysteries tying together the day's experiences, from navigating those grid streets without getting lost to immersing in the Great Bath's ritual calm, all underpinned by a script that hides its secrets and a peace that defies easy explanation. Another light joke bubbles up. Debating this enigma in the dark, it's like trying to debug code without the source files. No wonder scholars lose sleep over it. You'd almost trade your read mat for a comfy chair and a deciphering app if only time travel came with upgrades. The absent warfare intrigues you most, a civilization flourishing for centuries without the cycle of conquest that marked contemporaries like Egypt or Mesopotamia, perhaps through sophisticated social structures or environmental harmony that prioritize sustainability over supremacy, making Mohenjo-Daro feel like a utopian prototype in hindsight. Pondering the undeciphered script again, you imagine what it might reveal if cracked poems of the river's bounty or warnings about shifting climates that eventually led to decline. The seal's animals stare back in your mind's eye, those quirky unicorns, a symbol of the wild tamed not by force but by coexistence, feeding into the peaceful narrative where warfare's absence allowed arts and trade to bloom unchecked. Sensory immersion deepens the reflection, the weight of the cotton sheet like a soft barrier against the night's chill, the subtle creak of settling bricks, as if the city itself is sighing in sleep, the stars visible through the slit twinkling like unsolved variables in a cosmic equation. The enigma's debate swirls gently. Was it truly peaceful, or do we romanticize the gaps in evidence? Some scholars lean toward yes, citing the egalitarian urban planning as proof of cooperative living. while others debate if hidden hierarchies or external pressures simmered beneath, the script's silence fueling endless theories like branches in a decision tree. You feel a yawn building, the reflections pulling you towards slumber even as they fascinate. The urban mysteries a soothing riddle in the quiet, undeciphered words on seals whispering untold stories. Absent warfare painting a canvas of tranquility that's rare in history's turbulent code. A final soft quip. If the peaceful enigma were a system, it'd be bug-free harmony. Too bad the script's encryption key got lost, or we'd all be running Indus OS by now. No crashes allowed. The pondering eases, the city's enigmas folding into dreams, the valley's peace enveloping you like optimized rest mode after a long runtime. But the thoughts linger just a touch longer, tying the script's mystery to the warfare void. Perhaps the peace enabled the urban marvels, grid plans, and baths thriving in stability. Or maybe it's all illusion, the debate a historical loop without closure. Quirky seals with their beasts remind you of nature's role, not conquered but integrated, adding whimsy to the enigma. You close your eyes fully now, the reflections fading into the night's gentle algorithm, Mohenjo-Daro's secrets a comforting puzzle as sleep approaches. As the nighttime worries about floods and beasts begin to dissolve into the quiet hush of your family's sleeping breaths, the reed mat beneath you cradling your weary body like a simple subroutine, finally winding down after a full day's execution. You let your gaze drift upward through the narrow window slit, where the starry skies unfold in a vast, twinkling canopy over Mohenjo-Daro, pulling you into a final gentle reflection on the timeless rhythm of the Indus that has pulsed through every moment of this ancient day. The stars wink down at you, ancient sentinels that must have looked much the same to those who built this city millennia ago, their constellations perhaps guiding the grid-like streets aligned precisely to the cardinal directions. A mainstream historical fact of Indus urban planning, where avenues ran north-south and east-west with such accuracy that scholars suggest it tied to early astronomical observations, tracking the sun's path or seasonal shifts to harmonize life with the cosmos. You breathe deeply, the cool night air filling your lungs with a crispness that chases away the last remnants of anxiety, and feel reassured by how this alignment mirrors the river's own rhythmic flow, eternal and unhurried, like a well-optimized loop in nature's grand algorithm, repeating cycles of flood and fertility without the chaos of disruption. Drifting off now, your mind wanders to the peaceful enigma that enveloped your experiences, from the egalitarian social chats without hierarchies barking orders, to the absent warfare that left no scars on the seals or streets, just harmonious trade and crafts unfolding in quiet precision. You ponder the undeciphered script again, those mysterious marks on beads and pottery that might hold star maps or river hymns, their secrets whispering through time like encrypted data awaiting the perfect key, adding a layer of soothing mystery to the night's embrace. A quirky tidbit floats in like a shooting star. Some seals feature motifs resembling star clusters or celestial symbols, hinting at early star worship intertwined with prehistoric religion, where night sky observations might have influenced rituals, turning the heavens into a divine calendar for planting or bathing under the moon's glow. Imagine rolling dice under those same stars, your earlier boredom now reframed as a cosmic game of chance aligned with the universe's whims. You smile faintly in the dark, the thought oddly comforting, as if the ancients found peace in stargazing, their eyes tracing patterns that reassured them of order amid the valley's uncertainties, much like your own reflections now weaving the day's peculiarities into a tapestry of gentle wonder. Reassured by this timeless rhythm, you feel the Indus's distant murmur syncing with your slowing heartbeat, a natural metronome that has outlasted empires and enigmas alike, its waters carving paths through history without rush or rage. Historians still argue whether this civilization's peaceful nature stemmed from advanced astronomy guiding a harmonious society, perhaps aligning cities to stellar events for ritual unity, or if it was simpler seasonal tracking tied to the river's floods, with some debating that the lack of warfare evidence points to an egalitarian utopia influenced by cosmic observations, while others suggest it was pragmatic adaptation to environmental rhythms, the undeciphered script potentially hiding astronomical lore that could resolve the puzzle. Either way, in this moment, it all feels profoundly soothing. the stars above a silent affirmation that some mysteries are meant to lull rather than vex, pulling you deeper into rest like a program gracefully entering sleep mode after processing the day's inputs. Your eyelids grow heavy, the starry skies blurring into a soft, infinite haze as you drift further. The river's rhythm, a reassuring pulse that echoes ancient echoes of lives lived in quiet ingenuity. No grand battles to haunt your dreams, just the gentle flow of time carrying you along. You whisper a silent goodnight to those long-gone builders, their undeciphered whispers fading into the night like resolved variables in a flawless equation, leaving only peace in their wake. Another light joke to ease you. If the Indus had an app for stargazing, it'd be rated 5 stars for eternal reliability. No updates needed, just timeless vibes to sync your sleep cycle perfectly. The quirky star motifs on seals twinkle in your mind one last time, perhaps symbols of dreams where rhinos and rivers dance under the heavens, a whimsical bridge between earth and sky that reassures you of the civilization's serene legacy. Fading now, truly fading, into the embrace of sleep, the worries of the day dissolving like mist over the Indus at dawn, you feel a profound reassurance settling over you, the starry skies above a vast, eternal blanket woven from countless nights just like this one, where ancient souls drifted off much as you are now, lulled by the river's timeless rhythm that flows on, unchanging through the ages. Let your thoughts lengthen and soften, stretching out like the lazy curves of the waterway itself, carrying away the last fragments of reflection, the undeciphered enigmas, the peaceful absences, the quirky celestial hints, all blending into a warm, whispering haze that invites you deeper, ever deeper, into restful oblivion. Good night, dear traveler through time. May the ancient echoes sing you softly to slumber, their gentle chorus fading, fading, into the quiet whisper of dreams under the stars.